Have you ever wondered why we suffer? Why does pain, both physical and emotional, exist in our lives? And is there a way to escape it? These are profound questions that have puzzled humanity for millennia. But for one individual, these questions were not just idle musings, but the catalyst for a transformative journey that would shape the course of his life and ultimately the spiritual landscape of our world. Meet Siddhartha Gautama, a man born into nobility and privilege, in the lush landscapes of Lumbini, in what we now know as Nepal. His life was one of luxury, his days spent within the grandeur of palace walls, shielded from the harsh realities of the world. But beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic existence, a profound restlessness stirred. Siddhartha was troubled, consumed by the questions of suffering and pain, those enduring enigmas of human existence. At the age of 29, Siddhartha's life took a dramatic turn. Venturing beyond the palace confines, he was confronted by the stark realities of life: old age, sickness, death, the inevitability of suffering. And finally, the sight of an ascetic, a man who had renounced worldly pleasures in the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. These were the four sights, and they left Siddhartha profoundly affected, igniting an intense desire to understand the nature of suffering. And so, moved by compassion and driven by a thirst for understanding, Siddhartha made a radical decision. He renounced his princely status, his family, his possessions, and embarked on a spiritual quest. He became an ascetic, wandering the wilderness, seeking answers to the existential questions that plagued him. This is the story of a man on a quest for enlightenment, a journey that would lead him to profound insights into the nature of existence and the cause of suffering. This is the story of Siddhartha Gautama, who would later become known as the Buddha. Born into royalty, Siddhartha Gautama led a life of privilege and luxury. His birthplace, Lumbini, in present-day Nepal, was a kingdom brimming with prosperity and grandeur. The son of a king, Siddhartha was destined for greatness. His early life was spent within the opulent walls of a palace, shielded from the harsh realities of the world. Every need was catered to, every desire fulfilled. Yet, this young prince was far from content. His heart yearned for more than just the materialistic riches that surrounded him. A curiosity stirred within him, a longing to explore the world beyond the palace walls. He yearned to understand life in all its complexities and contradictions. He wanted to grasp the very essence of existence. Despite his royal status, Siddhartha was not blinded by his privilege. He recognized that his luxurious life was but a small fraction of the world's reality. However, all the wealth and comfort couldn't quench his thirst for understanding the realities of life. Venturing outside the palace walls, Siddhartha encountered the harsh realities of life. The first sight that greeted him was an old man, a sight that was wholly unfamiliar to him. The man's frailty and the lines etched deep into his face were stark reminders of the inevitability of aging. Next, he came across a sick man, his body racked with pain and suffering. This sight brought Siddhartha face to face with the harsh reality of disease. His third encounter was with a corpse, a chilling reminder of the certainty of death. These sights shook him to his core, prompting him to question the nature of existence and the root cause of suffering. The final sight, however, was of a wandering ascetic, serene and detached from worldly concerns. This sight offered Siddhartha a glimmer of hope, suggesting a possible path to liberation from the cycle of suffering. These experiences sparked a profound transformation in Siddhartha. Driven by compassion and a desire for understanding, Siddhartha renounced his princely status. This was no small feat. Leaving behind the comforts and privileges of his palace life, Siddhartha willingly embraced a life of hardship and austerity. It was a radical shift, a testament to the depth of his resolve to comprehend the nature of suffering. Siddhartha began his new life as an ascetic, a spiritual seeker. He wandered through the lands of ancient India, learning from spiritual teachers of diverse philosophies and practices. He absorbed their teachings like a sponge, always eager, always questioning. From meditation to ascetic practices, he explored the spectrum of spiritual disciplines available in his time. However, Siddhartha's journey was not an easy one. He subjected himself to severe austerities, pushing his body to the brink of collapse in an attempt to understand suffering from a first-hand experience. He lived on a bare minimum, often surviving on a single grain of rice a day. His body grew thin and frail, yet his spirit remained unbroken. In his quest, Siddhartha met numerous spiritual teachers, each offering their own path to liberation. He listened, learned, and practiced their teachings with diligence. Yet, despite his earnest efforts, he found their teachings lacking. They did not fully answer his burning questions about the nature of existence and the cause of suffering. Siddhartha's journey was not in vain, though. Each encounter, each practice, each moment of silence deepened his understanding, brought him closer to the truth he sought. He learned that neither extreme indulgence nor extreme deprivation led to enlightenment, and he began to realize the importance of a middle way. His relentless pursuit of truth led him to the town of Bodh Gaya. There, under the protective branches of a Bodhi tree, Siddhartha resolved to meditate until he found the answers he sought. This was the ultimate test of his resolve, a test he was ready to face. However, despite his efforts, the answers Siddhartha sought remained elusive. But Siddhartha was not discouraged. He knew that the path to enlightenment was not a straight line. And so he continued his journey, steadfast in his quest, knowing that every step brought him closer to understanding the true nature of suffering and existence. Undeterred, Siddhartha resolved to meditate until he attained enlightenment. And so he found his way to Bodh Gaya, a place that would soon become synonymous with his spiritual awakening. As he settled under the sprawling branches of a Bodhi tree, the world outside faded away. The only reality that existed was his inner world, a world he was determined to explore and understand. His mind, once clouded by the trappings of earthly life, began to clear, like morning mist parting to reveal the rising sun. His meditation was not a passive act of sitting in silence. It was an active journey, a struggle within himself to untangle the web of suffering and ignorance. He faced temptations, doubts, and fears. Each one was a test, a challenge to his resolve. But Siddhartha was unyielding. He held firm, like a mountain facing the onslaught of a storm. His determination was his shield, his wisdom, his compass. Days turned into weeks. His body weakened, but his spirit remained strong. Siddhartha was no longer a prince, nor an ascetic. He was a seeker on the brink of a profound realization. Then, in the quiet darkness before dawn, it happened. As the first rays of the morning sun touched the horizon, Siddhartha Gautama became the Buddha. He had awakened. He had pierced the veil of ignorance and seen the truth of existence, the root of suffering, and the path to liberation. In that moment, he was no longer just Siddhartha. He was the Buddha, the enlightened one, the awakened one. His journey had not merely taken him from a palace to a tree. It had taken him from the confines of a limited perception to the boundless vista of enlightened understanding. The Buddha had awakened not to a new day, but to a new way of seeing, a new way of being. It was as if he had been asleep his entire life, and now, finally, he was awake. He had found the answers within himself, answers that had always been there, waiting to be discovered. In his enlightenment, Buddha found the answers he had been seeking. After his enlightenment, Buddha dedicated his life to teaching others the path to liberation from suffering. He traveled across northern India, spreading his profound insights into existence, the causes of suffering, and the path to liberation, encapsulated in the Four Noble Truths. Buddha's teachings were not just philosophical discourses, they were practical guides for living. He emphasized the importance of compassion, mindfulness, and ethical conduct. He taught that by cultivating these qualities, we can not only alleviate our own suffering, but also contribute to the well-being of others. Buddha's teachings were not meant for monks and nuns alone. He believed in the potential of every human being to achieve enlightenment, regardless of their social status or background. This inclusive approach attracted a diverse range of followers, leading to the establishment of the Sangha, a community of monks, nuns, and lay followers committed to practicing Buddha's teachings. Buddhism gradually spread throughout India and later across Asia. The teachings of the Buddha transcended cultural and geographical boundaries, resonating with people of different walks of life. Today, Buddhism is one of the world's major religions, with millions of followers worldwide. Towards the end of his life, Buddha delivered his final teachings, emphasizing the impermanent nature of all things. This teaching, known as Anicca, encourages us to see life as a constant flux, helping us to embrace change and reduce our attachment to material possessions and fleeting pleasures. Buddha passed away at the age of 80 in a state of deep meditation. a state known as parinirvana. Even in his last moments, he urged his followers to be diligent in their practice, emphasizing that liberation is a personal journey that requires self-effort. The Buddha's life and teachings continue to inspire millions around the world in their quest for understanding and liberation from suffering. His legacy is a testament to the transformative power of compassion, mindfulness, and wisdom. It serves as a beacon of hope and a source of guidance for those navigating the challenges of human existence.